I think that although people say they would not fight for Queen and country, they would fight for their homes and their families and the people they love, and that is exactly the same thing anyway.
The idea of king and country belongs to the 19th century, and it has no relevance to the present day.
I don't see sufficiently wrong in the potential enemy at the moment to think it worth fighting against.
The Oxford Union president has a mixed postbag these days. So did the president of 32 years ago. The last time this symbol of cowardice was sent to the president's office was in 1933. One white feather arrived for each supporter of the motion, "This House will in no circumstances fight for king and country." The recipient this time, Tariq Ali, a Pakistani. In Oxford last week, he spoke of filthy, fascist American aggression in Vietnam. The decision to revive the motion was his alone.
In the first place, I thought it would be a good idea to have the motion debated again to see how exactly the Oxford Union would react to it. In the second place, one of the real reasons why I did choose this motion was because at that time the war in Vietnam was getting more and more hot every day. And I just didn't want to see a situation in which Britain was dragged into a war in Southeast Asia by the United States.
The Oxford Union debating hall has not changed since February 1933. Then, Hitler had been Chancellor for a fortnight. Mussolini was about to become his own war minister. The Oxford Union president was Frank Hardy.
No one demurred to this at all or thought it was improper or anything like that. It was accepted very easily by everyone who was present. The only question which was raised, and I do remember it being raised, was will there be enough people to speak in favour of it?
From All Souls, one man who supported it, Professor Max Beloff.
Well, the debate itself was really quite an ordinary debate. I don't think anybody had any idea that it was out of the ordinary in any way. It had quite a good attendance, but not a spectacularly large one. And it was really brought to life by the remarkable speech of Professor Joad. Even after all these years, I still think this is the best debating speech I've ever heard. He was batting on a rather good wicket, because I think there was general sympathy with peace in the broader sense at the time, and his speech was a pacifist speech which still enabled people who were not themselves pacifists but vaguely in favour of the League of Nations or collective security to feel they could vote for it too. I think that's really the key to the whole of that event.
The press reacted violently. The Express spoke of communism. The sketch, Oxford will learn when it grows up. The Times feared it would perpetuate a false impression. The Morning Post, needlessly provocative and offensive. The Cambridge magazine was mocking. It asked, anyhow, does it matter? For Mr. Quintin Hogg, it did matter. He wrote, the next war will be caused by the pacifists in our midst. Whether Britain's youth was ready to fight or not, in Oxford, battle had been joined. Some wanted the record of the debate wiped out. Randolph Churchill was among those who led the campaign. It failed by 750 votes. Direct action, however, had been taken before Churchill's motion. The Thursday after the King and Country debate, a group of undergraduates burst into the chamber, and beneath the gaze of distinguished ex-presidents, they ripped out the offending minutes. The records were, in fact, rewritten, and the Axis powers were already taking note of them. A former member of Hitler's general staff claims that no other factor encouraged the Führer more than the Oxford motion, because Hitler assumed that the refusal to fight represented the views of Britain's intellectual elite. Oxford today has 9,500 students, nearly twice as many as in 1933. It's got 37 colleges and societies, compared with 31 then. Of the 1933 elite, whose opinion Mussolini and Hitler apparently valued, most were from public schools. Today, almost half come from state or state-aided schools, and there are more than 1,000 foreign students. In 1933, 1/3 of the undergraduates belonged to the Union. Today, it's only a fifth, and the average attendance at Union debates is about 350.
This is the desk of the President, Tariq Ali. It was here that he decided just a few days after he was elected President in March to have this particular motion debated. Now, every morning, a stack of mail, usually about 20 letters, awaits him as he walks to the office from his digs at 61 Holywell Street. Most of the letters are against him, but also many are for him. This is something of a cross-section.
Congratulations. I hope your debate will be a pruning hook in the dead wood of many minds.
Nobody asked you to come here, so go away and leave our Queen alone.
I support your motion. I fought last time, and am now a physical and mental wreck. I think your attitude to all these ignorant and childish remarks is superb. Bravo! I'm an Indian and very proud of you.
Dear sir, is it not the custom in Pakistan for visitors to exercise tact, good taste and courtesy?
Having flown with the RAF in the last war, I suppose I ought to oppose you. But I'm also an Oxford man. Whatever your feelings, you must not be deterred.
From ex-RAF pilot and Oxford graduate, if you're not prepared to fight for the dignity of man, get out.
That one can understand semi-literate people taking stupid attitudes regards this debate, but I can't understand what made Sir David Lindsay Keir, the master of Balliol, make remarks like we'll be listening from Hottentots and Eskimos next. I don't know, I'm not telling him to do anything.
Christchurch, one centre of opposition to Tariq Ali. It's the home of traditional views like those of the two union trustees who've resigned over the debate. One is Dr. Arthur Goodhart. The other is Sir Roy Harrod, a union member since 1919. Why has he resigned?
Well, my reason for resignation was simply one thing, and that was the wording seemed to me to be discourteous to the Queen. The same point came up. I was involved in the 1933, the famous one, and I asked the President of the day why he'd got this wording about King and Country. He tried to explain what the motion meant. I said, but can't you word it differently? Can't you say that this House wouldn't fight in any war not sponsored by the League of Nations? Oh, but he said that wouldn't get the newspaper headlines.
But do you really think, Sir Roy, that harm was caused by this motion being passed in 1933?
Oh, certainly. It was actually quoted by Mussolini, we know that, and there was the feeling going around the world that the British were a bit played out at that time, and this motion, copied by other motions in other unions, reinforced that impression that perhaps the British were a bit past it.
While some debate the debate, others demonstrate their readiness to defend Queen and Country. Some of these men will oppose tomorrow night's motion. Others will just boycott the debate, like one man who supported the King and Country motion. Why has this man changed his viewpoint? I asked him, Professor Max Belloff.
Now it seems to me that in the nuclear age, with a good many conflicts actually going on around us, it is rather artificial to try and produce a motion of this kind. There isn't the same division of opinion. It would be, of course, perfectly all right to have a straight motion on non-violence, which many people believe in. It might be possible to have other motions, but this particular thing seems simply designed to excite hostility, questioning, publicity, and these are things I think the union could do without.
The students of Oxford University seem little worried about the protests of the senior members. How will they vote tomorrow night?
I would not vote for this motion, no.
Why?
Because I think that although people say they would not fight for Queen and Country, they would fight for their homes and their families and the people they love, and that is exactly the same thing anyway.
I abstain.
Why?
Because it seems to me an irrelevant motion. The idea of King and Country belongs to the 19th century, and it has no relevance to the present day.
I'd vote against the motion.
Why?
Because last time they voted for the motion, they wouldn't fight for King and Country, and then a few years later they went and did so, and I don't think the motion at this stage would have any point at all.
I will vote for the motion.
Why?
Because I don't see sufficiently wrong in the potential enemy at the moment to think it worth fighting against.
Well, I should be voting in favour of the motion on Thursday.
Why?
Well, because I think the thing to realise about this motion is that it isn't a pacifist motion. It says that whatever else this House might fight for, it wouldn't fight just for Queen and Country, it wouldn't fight just for patriotism by itself.
Beneath the evidence of Oxford patriotism, the principal undergraduate speakers have been rehearsing for the big night.
In proposing this motion is not the notion of fighting as such, but the idea that patriotism, that fighting for Queen and Country, is in itself worthwhile.
Richard Kirkwood, Corpus Christi, speaking for the motion. He's 21, a former Bradford Grammar School boy, now doing postgraduate work. He's in the Young Socialists, and he's a ban the bomb supporter. Opposing the motion that this House would not fight for Queen and Country will be the Honourable Simon Head, son of Lord Head, former Defence Minister. Simon Head thinks the motion argues a hypothetical case.
Either by force or by military methods. And it is this argument which I shall oppose as strongly as I can.
The fact is that people outside Oxford, or if you want to be more specific, outside England, don't pay very much importance to what the Oxford Union says and does. They may have done so in the 30s, but there's absolutely no chance of that at all now.
Some people, though, do pay attention. Tariq Ali's life has been threatened. Police have made special arrangements for tomorrow night. Tariq Ali looks forward to the debate. Will he ever look back on it as Frank Hardy looks back on 1933?
We had provoked a lot of discussion, and I think that was useful. That was a good thing to do. But I did become a bit worried when more and more people told me that the passing of this motion had been misconstrued abroad, that the impression had been spread that the whole of British youth was gutless, was spineless, and they could count on not being any way resisted, and that this false impression had encouraged aggression and possibly even done something to bring about the war. Now, if you stop to think that you might, however inadvertently, have been in any way responsible for that, well, that's quite a serious thing to have in your mind.
The bite of the 1933 debate was not felt at once. The fuss didn't blow up until after it was over. Perhaps tomorrow night's debate will be all bark and no bite at all.